Welcome on over to Automotive World, everyone. I'm your host, Vinny Mystery, and tonight we have huge news regarding the 2025 Kia Carnival. Not only is it getting a hybrid powertrain, but we have pricing information as well. Stay tuned. We're going to do two different videos. We're going to do a short version and we're going to do a deep dive. So stay tuned. Let's find out everything that we have. And we have pricing for 2025. Keep in mind, all the pricing I'm going to show you up here is MSRP. So it does exclude destination handling fees, tags, titles, and other retailer charges or dealer options or options that you may choose in general. This is just MSRP. Starting off, the regular Kia Carnival. No hybrid, just regular Kia Carnival is going to start at $36,500. And for the hybrid variant, that's going to start at $40,500. So a $4,000 price difference there. I'm gonna be honest, stay tuned for the deep dive, but it's big price increases across the board. Starting off with the LX here, we see that it starts at $36,500. The Carnival LXS is going to start at $38,500. That is a $2,000 jump. The EX is going to start at $40,700. So that's a little bit more than $2,000 jump. It's a little bit more than that. That's, we're getting up there. Then we get up to the SX, and this is huge. The SX is $45,600. That is huge. Compared that to the EX, that is almost a $5,000 jump. And then we get to the SX Prestige. And keep in mind, this isn't the hybrid trims yet, guys. This is just the regular ones. The SX Prestige is going to be $50,600. That is a lot of money for a people mover. That is a lot of money for a minivan. Now we get into the hybrid pricing. The hybrid, as we said, it's going to start at $40,500. The EX version of the hybrid is going to be $42,700. The SX version of the Carnival hybrid, $47,600. And the ultimate, the bad boy, the biggest, the baddest, the best one of the bunch, the Carnival Hybrid SX Prestige, $52,600. That is huge. First of all, prices have increased a lot for this van. And we're going to talk about a little bit more in the deep dive. We'll talk more about the actual comparison versus the old one. But there's some key things here. Number one, like I said, this vehicle has grown in price exponentially, as many vehicles have. However, though, considering the average price of a new car here in the United States, when you look at some of this pricing here, it doesn't make sense for you to buy one of these trims when for a few $1,000s more, you could buy the hybrid. Like for me, if you look at it, I would just get, if you're thinking about getting an EX, right? Maybe you don't want the SX or Prestige, but you want an EX. I would just spend the money and go get the LXS, which is the base hybrid trim, or spend a little bit more and just get the EX and the hybrid. And when we look at it here, which we'll do, and we'll go more into that deep dive, but we'll talk a little bit about it here. The biggest thing is that the hybrid version is going to get the 1.6 liter turbo hybrid engine. So it's going to give you a 54 kilowatt hour motor, a 6-speed automatic, and it's going to give you combined 242 horsepower, 271 pound-feet of torque. For those of you who don't know, the older Carnival and the current Carnival is still using that V6 that you can find in things like the Telluride. So, you still get some power, not as much as the V6, but you do get that fuel efficiency and a little bit more range. We're going to go more into the deep dive. So we're going to cut this video here, but we're going to go into the deep dive. I'm going to show you the pricing between old and new, and we're going to see, and honestly, we're going to talk about this. Is this really worth it or not? So stick around. I'll have another video posted. This will be edited into a shorter clip, but for those of you who want to see that deep dive, stick around here. We're going to be right, because we already went over 2025 pricing, and that's what's on their website. So we've already seen the price differences between the non-hybrid versions and those hybrid versions. We know that the non-hybrid versions keep that V6, makes 287 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, one of the more powerful ones in the class. However, this is the first time that the Kia Carnival is getting a hybrid. And because we already know that the hybrid is more expensive, we can see that in the pricing here. It's not a fair apples to apples comparison to compare it to 2024 pricing like that, because there wasn't a hybrid in 2024, and we know the hybrid is more expensive than all the other versions anyways. So here's what we're going to do. Don't really worry about this down here. We're going to talk about these trims right here. And we've got 2024 pricing right here. So when we look now with the LX, this is the base trim, the entry-level Kia Carnival trim. 2025, we have it $36,500. 2024, $33,600. So that is almost a $2,000 jump. When we look at the LX with the seat package, and keep in mind this is MSRP, so these, these don't include destination fee and things like that. And this is the one with the V6 as we are comparing here. These are not the hybrid ones with the turbo engine. These are the V6 ones. The LXS. So essentially this would have been that trim right here, as the trims did get reworked. $35,600. When we look at it, we're at $38,500. That is almost a $3,000 increase. When we look at the EX trim, $40,700 for 2025. In 2024, that was $39,100. So almost a $1,000 increase. Right? We come back, we look, we can see it's an increase. Actually, a little bit more than that, actually. When we look at the SX, this was $42,300. When we come over here, just on the base versions, these are non-hybrid versions, $45,600. So that is about a $3,000 price increase. And when we come up to the SX Prestige, this was the biggest one, the baddest one. This gave you, like I said, that V6 that's going to give you 3,500 pound-feet of towing. This one was giving you 290 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. The current one gives you about 287 horsepower with 260 pound-feet of torque. So same towing capacity, but this used to be the biggest, baddest trim, $46,700. When we come up to the SX Prestige, non-hybrid, this isn't the 1.6 liter turbo with the 54 kilowatt hour motor. This is just the version with the V6. It's $50,600. So depending on what trim we're looking at here, there's anywhere from $1,000 to almost $5,000 increases. And then when we come up to the hybrid, because if we're just comparing this from what's the most expensive trim from last year to this year, last year's most expensive trim was about $47,000. This year's most expensive trim is about $53,000. It's about a $6,000 increase. So this vehicle is receiving huge increases across the board. And this isn't uncommon. It's not a surprise, especially with a hybrid powertrain. Hybrid powertrains are, notorious to be expensive. Obviously there's an extra component in terms of an electrical motor and batteries and things like that. And I think the hybrid powertrain is really good for a lot of people who don't necessarily need as much power as the V6, who probably don't do any towing or anything, but really, use this as an everyday, it's a people mover. They want the efficiency more. For me, I would go with the V6 just because I like the V6, but the one thing I'll give Kia is that they did keep options. If you want the V6, get the cheaper V6, it's been around longer. If you want the hybrid, get the hybrid. But we have huge price increases across the board. And keep in mind, these prices here, just like these prices here, these exclude the almost $1,400 destination fee. They also, like I said, exclude tag, taxes, title, license fees, any other handling fees, any other options that you put on the vehicle when you build it, and any other options or fees that the dealer will decide to charge in terms of markups. So like I said, when you look at it, before tax, tag, title, all that other stuff. And if you're financing this vehicle and you don't have 0% interest, your actual cost at the end of this loan, this is a vehicle that went up more than just anywhere from $1,000 to $6,000. This is a vehicle that's going up close to even, once you're done paying off a loan with no interest, depending on what your interest rate is, I mean, you're looking at over 10 grand here. So the Kia Carnival has received huge, astronomical price increases. Then again, they did also equip it really well. They did give us a new powertrain. We still have here LED headlights, we have things like that. We've got Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto as well, and both of those are standard 12.3 inch touchscreen. EX trims and above get the full digital instrumentation system, so really, really cool to see that. Standard 6 USB-C ports throughout the cabin, 2 power outlets, 215 volt inverters on the SX and the SXP only. We can get it in that 8-seater option here, which is really, really nice. Obviously, we've got the all-new infotainment system and things, but really the biggest thing here is, like I said, the Carnival is still going to come with that available V6, and that's going to produce 287 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, paired with that 8-speed automatic transmission. It's been pretty tried and true for the most part. Kia's been using it in a lot of their vehicles, especially the Telluride. Hasn't necessarily had too many issues. Obviously, the older generation of that engine had a lot of issues, but this one seems to be pretty good. But the biggest thing, obviously, and the biggest price increase is that 1.6 liter turbo engine with the 54 kilowatt hour motor, 6-speed transmission. And like I said, when you look at it, obviously, yes, this is going to give you more power. This is going to give you better towing and things. And I like the V6. I would go the V6. I just like the way the V6 feels naturally aspirated. I like those kind of things. I'm a little more old school like that. But when you look at it, the hybrid's not really that much of a slouch. I mean, 242 horsepower, yeah, it's a people mover. So, it's not as much, obviously, as the V6. And obviously, this is a combined output using both the electric motor and the gas motor. When you look at it, I mean, 242 horsepower, especially for what this vehicle is going to be used for, driving in town on the highway and things, it's not bad. 271 pound-feet of torque. Keep in mind, this is a combined output. Obviously, with a hybrid, that's how they all work. But the fact that with a combined output, you can get more torque than the V6, that is pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie. And like I said, I think Kia, for the most part, I mean, we've got, our safety features and things like that. They've done a good job, obviously, but, the biggest price increase here is that hybrid system because of the new engine, because of the new hybrid motor, and because of the battery. But I think this is a pretty well-equipped vehicle. Now, there are, things we can think about here. Should you buy a Telluride over this? A lot of people will probably want the Telluride. It might look better, maybe, the way it feels and things like that. But even though there is, third row SUVs are on the rise, minivans are still around, people movers are still around, just because of the design of them, the form factor. Yes, you can get third row SUVs with 7 or 8 seats, but they're generally not as comfy as minivans or people movers are. And this is a big vehicle. This can comfortably sit 7 or 8 people. But to look at pricing between last year and this year, I mean, we have huge pricing increases. Unfortunately, we don't have any EPA figures on what the hybrid system is going to be, in terms of, fuel economy, things like that. We do have last year's numbers, right? So we can see here that in the city, and this is with that V6, it would get 19 city, 26 highway, 22 combined. Keep in mind the V6 we have now, it's the same one. It's making 3 less horsepower and 2 pound-feet of torque less. So that might give us a little bit more efficiency there, but obviously the hybrid is going to give us the most efficiency. So we don't know exactly what the EPA figures are going to be, but obviously we know that this is the benchmark. So we should obviously assume that this will beat this. But like I said, I think Kia did a pretty good job. But this vehicle, like I said, it's before tax and all those things and the loans and all that, those interest rates and things, your actual payoff time. This is a vehicle that went up exponentially. depending on what trim you're looking at, anywhere from over $1,000 to $6,000, and it is what it is in the car world. Personally, like I said, as I talked in the last video, I don't know if I would, for $52,600, spend it on the SX Prestige. I think, if you need the LX, okay, great. It went up a little bit, but still a pretty decent value. To me, if you're buying an EX or an SX, I would still buy the V6 one. But I mean, when you look at the ES and the SX on here, like I said, I personally think the LXS and the EX for the hybrid trims are the sweet spot in the entire lineup versus with both through the V6 and the hybrid. Obviously, if you need to save a little money, then the LX and the EX make a little sense there. And like I said, I personally do like that V6, but looking at this, I think that our base hybrid trim and our EX trim, I think these are the sweet spots right here. If you want to get those higher trims, go for it. It's all you. You can do whatever you want. But I just think those are the sweet spots. That is going to do it for now, everyone. Let me know what you guys and girls think down below of this vehicle. For those of you who owned a Kia Carnival, for those of you who are looking to upgrade to one, owned a Kia in the past, or if you owned what the previous version of this car was. A lot of people don't remember, but the Sedona, that's what they used to call this car. Let me know what you guys and girls think down below if you have that vehicle and you're looking to upgrade here. That's going to do it for now, though. Thanks for watching, everyone.